A long time ago in America, a tribe, an Indian nation, was breathing its last. They were on the verge of extinction. They'd suffered from plagues and disease. They were surrounded by enemies. And finally, on one fateful night, it was the end. Their enemies had surrounded their village. Some of the parents snuck the little ones, the little kids, outside of the village and put them in a safe place where they could hide just in time, because that was the end for them. That nation became extinct, except for the little ones. Not a single one of them was in their teens. They were too little to even know to comb their hair or take a bath without being told. But they survived. They knew how to light fires. They knew how to keep warm when it was cold. They knew how to eat the wild foods and how to do some basic skills like basket weaving and making arrowheads, because the kids learned these things since they were babies, watching the parents do it, being taught how to do these things. So the little ones, this little group of kids, survived. And as time passed, a new generation came, and then another generation came from them, and they were a very large nation. When they finally began to interact again with the other tribes, they hadn't before because they didn't trust them, they were the enemy, began to interact with the other tribes. The other tribes found them to be dirty and unkempt, and they had no stories, no legends, no knowledge of their history, and they weren't real ethical. They tended to steal. But that nation is one of the great American Indian nations today. Those little tiny kids survived, and they became a great nation. So if you went out into the wilderness with nothing, well, if the little kids could survive and live and become a great nation, what about you? You couldn't survive? Why not?
I still think it looks like a sacred trek or else a trade route. I don't know why.
Several years ago, I was standing up on that mountain behind me, and I looked out at this mountain pass that I'm about to walk up, and I had this intuitive belief that it was an ancient route of some kind. The natives who lived here hundreds of years ago or more, they would use it for trade or for some spiritual journey. And what I found is I found several things as you go up that mountain pass. First, an eco island where there are plants and things that grow that don't grow in other places around here. It's just like an island in the middle of the desert with its own ecosystem. Like if you're up on top of a mountain, you could look down into the little ravines and see deciduous trees. You might see cottonwood or a sycamore. Deciduous trees are a pretty good sign that even if there's not actual running water, there's there's water right underneath, just right underneath the soil or the sand. So you know where to look. A natural sort of a wheat field here growing in the damp soil. This is all food here. On these ones here, you see that dark color in there. The seed's still in there. That's bread. Basically, this is bread here, what you're looking at. There's pretty much everything you want here. There's food, there's water, place to take a shower, clean yourself up. Oh, and a nice view. This is kind of a glue plant. It's basically the outside of the stems and stuff right there. It's really, really gluey. See that? And here is the very first of that sacred tree that we'll run across. And here it is. And these types of trees tell you from a long distance, before you waste your time going on a long hike, that there's water there. And even if you took that hike and you got there and you said, oh hey, there's no water here, there's just trees only. Well, the fact that in this climate, in a place like this, with this severe heat and ongoing permanent drought, the fact that there's a tree like that growing here means that there's always water. So you got to dig up the rocks. You got to just kind of dig into the sand and the gravel and go down a ways and make yourself a well. And it will be worth your trouble to take the hike and go check it out. So, just a little pool here. But this is a classic Arizona oasis. Hey, this is a jojoba plant, and there will be beans later on to be growing on these. Those beans have multiple uses. They can be eaten, although they don't digest well.
You must listen when you're old. I will always be there by your side into the distance. Where you go,